At 6:12 a.m. on the third Tuesday of March, I was kneeling in 3 inches of February meltwater, watching a 40-year-old boiler die. The sound it made was unmistakable. I'd heard it 37 years earlier, my first week as an apprentice at McLaren Steel in Pittsburgh, when my father pointed at a ruptured heat exchanger and said, "Gregory, remember this sound? This is the sound of neglected responsibility." He'd been dead 11 years. The boiler had outlasted him, but not by much. I knew every weld in that system, every pressure valve, every shortcut taken by the contractor who installed it in 1989, back when this building was still a textile mill, and the word startup meant something you did with a cold engine on a winter morning. My name is Gregory Vance. Greg to the 3 men who still remembered my father. Mr. Vance to everyone else at Meridian Industrial Technologies, a company that manufactured precision components for aerospace contractors, though you'd never know it from the way they treated their own infrastructure. I'd been chief facilities engineer for 23 years, since 2001, back when the company had 14 employees, 1 fax machine, and a founder who still came down to the boiler room to share a thermos of coffee. These days, they had 400 employees, a CFO who thought HVAC stood for high-value asset creation, and a chief operating officer named Derek Harrington who wore sneakers that cost more than my monthly mortgage and referred to me as the maintenance guy in board meetings I'd never been invited to attend. The boiler groaned again. A death rattle in B-flat. I reached for my radio. "Martha, I'm shutting down Zone 4. Tell the floor supervisors to expect a 15-degree drop by noon." Static. Then her voice, tired already at this hour. "They'll complain, Greg. They always complain, but you're the only one who knows how to fix it." That was the problem. That had always been the problem. By 7:45 a.m., I'd rerouted the secondary loop and bought us 72 hours. 72 hours to source a part that hadn't been manufactured since the Clinton administration, install it without shutting down the clean rooms, and prevent $400,000 in spoiled inventory. Not that anyone would notice. The quarterly report would show operational efficiency. The CEO would take credit, and I would return to my basement office with the water-stained ceiling tiles and the filing cabinet that still contained my original job description from 2001. Maintain all building systems, ensure continuous operations, report to founder, CEO. The founder's name was Arthur Meridian. He died in 2019. His son Richard now collected vintage Ferraris and referred to the company as a legacy asset in investor calls. I kept Arthur's original key on my ring. Brass, unmarked. It opened nothing anymore. The locks had been changed 3 times, but I kept it anyway. A reminder of when this place meant something. My office phone rang at 8:03 a.m. The display showed, "Executive Suite. Greg? Derek here." Harrington's voice had the artificial warmth of a customer service recording. "Need you up here for a quick sync. 9 sharp. Conference room B." Quick sync. I'd learned to translate corporate dialect. Quick sync meant either a broken espresso machine or bad news. The espresso machine was my responsibility. The bad news wasn't, but I knew. I'd known since Monday, when I'd seen the org chart on Martha's desk. The one with my position highlighted in yellow. The one with TBD written in the margin. I finished my coffee. Black. From the thermos my wife had given me in 1998, before the cancer took her. Then I walked upstairs to learn which version of my future had been selected for me. Conference room B had glass walls, designed, I suppose, so that executives could admire their own reflections while pretending to collaborate. Harrington was already seated. Beside him, a woman from legal I'd never met. She was arranging papers with the precise movements of someone who'd never held a tool heavier than a fountain pen. "Greg, thanks for making time." Harrington didn't stand. "Have a seat." I remained standing. "The boiler's failing. I have 72 hours. "Right. About that." He glanced at the lawyer. "We're going in a new direction. Modernizing operations, streamlining our facilities management approach." I said nothing. Silence is a tool. My father taught me that. "We're offering a comprehensive severance package." The lawyer slid a folder across the table. 3 months. Benefits through the quarter. Very competitive. I opened the folder. Looked at the first page. Looked at Harrington. "You spelled my name wrong." What? Gregory J. Vance. I tapped the paper. The J is for James. This says Gregory J. Vance. 23 years. You couldn't confirm the spelling? Harrington's smile flickered. I'm sure that's just and the position title. I turned the page. Senior Maintenance Technician. I was hired as Chief Facilities Engineer in 2001. I've been listed as Director of Infrastructure since 2014. Titles are just... Words matter, Derek. I closed the folder. Words are how we know what things are worth. The lawyer cleared her throat. Mr. Vance, we need your badge and keys today. All company property, including any documentation in your possession. I looked at her, then at Harrington, then at the glass walls, where I could see the reflection of a man I'd stopped recognizing years ago. You want the keys? Standard procedure. All of them. Please. I reached into my pocket, removed the ring, 14 keys, each labeled in my handwriting, each representing a system, a protocol, a piece of institutional memory that existed nowhere else. The brass key from Arthur Meridian, the master for the 1989 boiler room, the override for the clean room environmental controls, the emergency shutoff for the chemical storage, the service entrance that predated the security system, the key to the electrical vault that powered the server farm, the key to the filing cabinet containing the original building plans, the ones that showed the load-bearing walls, the ones that showed which modifications in 2014 had violated fire code. I held them up, let them catch the fluorescent light. You're sure? Harrington blinked. I'm sorry? You want these? Today? You're certain? Greg, this isn't personal. It's just business. I finished for him. I know. I placed the ring on the table. The sound was small, metallic, final. You just terminated the only person who knows where the main water shutoff is located, the only person with the override codes for the climate control system, the only person who knows that your server farm is running on electrical infrastructure rated for half its current load. I buttoned my jacket. The only person who knows that the minor renovation in 2014 removed a load-bearing wall without proper reinforcement. I walked to the door, paused. Good luck with that. I didn't go home. I drove to McKinney's Diner on Route 41, the same booth where Arthur Meridian had offered me this job 23 years ago. Ordered coffee. Black. Stared at the parking lot until my hands stopped shaking. Then I called my nephew, David Vance, 34, corporate real estate attorney in Cleveland. He answered on the second ring. Uncle Greg? Everything okay? No, but it's about to be. I stirred coffee I hadn't touched. Remember that story I told you about the lease? Silence. Then, the one from 2001? Yes. You never transferred it. No. Greg. His voice changed. The professional tone. Tell me you didn't. I signed the original lease. Arthur's credit was garbage. The company couldn't qualify. I used my name, my credit. He promised it was temporary. And the renewals? Always me. Always my signature. They never asked. I never pushed. I looked out the window. I was protecting them. I thought I was protecting the company. Where are you right now? McKinney's. Don't move. He arrived in 40 minutes. Blue suit. Bluetooth earpiece. The nervous energy of a man who'd built his career on other people's paperwork mistakes. He slid into the booth. Opened his laptop. Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out. I told him about the lease. The amendments. The 2014 expansion. The 2019 renewal. The 2022 modification that added the clean room facility. Every document. Every signature. Every notarization, David typed without looking at the keyboard. When does the current term expire? June 1st. Today's March 19th. Yes. Greg. He looked up. They haven't sent renewal notice. I know. Do they know? I don't know what they know. I know they fired me. I know they took my keys. I know they never asked about the lease. David closed his laptop. You could warn them. Yes. You could send an email, a phone call. Hey, by the way, you might want to check. Yes. Are you going to? I thought about the folder. Gregory J. Vance, 3 months pay, senior maintenance technician. I thought about Arthur Meridian, dead 4 years, whose son had never learned the boiler room's location. I thought about my father, kneeling beside a ruptured heat exchanger saying, This is the sound of neglected responsibility. No, I said. I'm not. I spent the next week organizing my garage, not avoiding, preparing. The 1952 Craftsman toolbox my father left me. The files I'd kept at home, the documentation I'd learned to maintain after watching 3 previous employers discover that institutional memory isn't stored in servers. David called daily. You have options. We could negotiate. I know my options, Greg. If they don't renew by May 1st, the lease converts to month. Either party can terminate with 30 days notice. I know. And if you terminate, then they have to vacate. Yes. You're the lessee of record. You could force an eviction. I know. Do they know? That was the question. That had always been the question. On March 26th, I drove past the facility. Slow legal speed. The parking lot was full. The flags were flying. Inside, 400 people worked in a building whose legal foundation they didn't understand. I could have stopped. Could have walked into the lobby. Could have asked for Richard Meridian, explained the situation, given them the chance to fix what they'd broken. Instead, I drove to the county recorder's office, paid for certified copies of every document, the original lease, all 7 amendments. The proof that Gregory James Vance, not Meridian Industrial Technologies, held the exclusive right to occupy 1400 Industrial Parkway. Then I went home, and I waited. The call came at 7:42 p.m. on April 15th. I was organizing socket wrenches when the phone lit up. Richard Meridian, Arthur's son. I'd spoken to him twice in 4 years. Both times, he'd called me Gary. I let it ring 3 times. Answered on the 4th. Vance. Greg. Richard. His voice was wrong, too high, too fast. We need to talk. There's been a situation. Yes? The property manager. He says you'd lease. That's correct. You can't do that. This is our facility. Our company, your company occupies by Gregory James Vance. That lease terminates on May 15th. I provided notice on April 1st. Certified mail. Email confirmation. County filing. I set down the wrench. Standard procedure. Silence. Then, this is a mistake. A misunderstanding. We can fix this. Name your price. I had a price, Richard. It was 23 years of showing up, of knowing which pipes groan before storms, of keeping your father's company alive while you collected cars. I walked to the window. You offered me 3 months and a misspelled name. That was Derek. I didn't know. You didn't ask. None of you asked. You assumed the building ran on software and good intentions. You assumed someone else was handling the details. I watched a car pass on the street below. Details matter, Richard. Words matter. Remember? What do you want? Nothing you can offer anymore. I hung up. David called 10 minutes later. They just contacted the property manager, trying to negotiate directly, offering triple rent. And? The manager called me, asked about the new tenant. Tell him. I already did. Greenfield Manufacturing. Signed preliminary agreement yesterday. They're paying market rate, 4 times what Meridian was paying. Good. Greg. David paused. They're going to fight this legal action. Claims of implied authority. Corporate veil piercing. Let them. They'll lose. I know. I slept well that night, for the first time in weeks. May 15th fell on a Thursday. I didn't go to the facility. David sent updates. Photos. The moving trucks arriving at 6 a.m. The employees standing in the parking lot, confused, holding cardboard boxes. The sign company removing the Meridian Industrial Technologies logo from the lobby. Richard Meridian tried one last time, called my cell at 11:47 p.m. the night before, left a voicemail I didn't return. Harrington, I heard later, had been terminated the previous week. Something about failure to perform due diligence. The board needed a scapegoat. They found one who couldn't spell. By June, Greenfield Manufacturing was fully operational. I'd consulted on their environmental systems. Triple my previous rate. They knew my name. They spelled it correctly. Martha called me in July. She'd retired early. Couldn't stomach the new management wherever they'd relocated. We met for coffee at McKinney's. They're in a converted warehouse now, she said. Outside Dayton, half the space. Quarter the prestige. She stirred her coffee. Richard Meridian resigned last month. Private equity took over. Stripped the assets. Yes, I heard. Greg? She looked at me. Really looked. Did you know? When you took those keys back, did you know what would happen? I thought about the boiler room, the 1989 system I'd kept alive through creativity and stubbornness, the load-bearing wall that wasn't, the electrical infrastructure rated for half its load. I knew they didn't know, I said. That was enough. Last week I stood in my garage. The 1952 Craftsman toolbox was open on my workbench. The socket wrenches arranged the way my father taught me. Beside them, the brass key Arthur Meridian gave me in 2001. I'd had it mounted, small brass hook, oak plaque, not as a trophy, as a reminder. 23 years they'd taken for granted. 23 years I'd shown up, fixed things, kept the wheels turning while they built their empires on foundations they didn't understand. They wanted me redundant. I reminded them I was foundational. The key catches the light when I open the garage door in the morning, casts a shadow on the wall, long, elegant, permanent. Competence doesn't retire. It just finds clients who remember to say thank you.